When Nigerians are attacked, displaced, and killed on foreign soil, what should a so-called peace envoy bring? An apology. Accountability. A clear plan to protect innocent lives. Or accusations against the very people whose country he has come to address. Welcome to the Critical Lens, where we look beyond the headlines and examine the stories others would rather avoid. Today, we are looking at the growing diplomatic tension between Nigeria and South Africa. For years, Nigerians living in South Africa have complained of xenophobic attacks, intimidation, destruction of businesses and alleged brutality involving security officers. Once again, Nigerian families are grieving. Once again, questions are being asked about the safety and dignity of Nigerians on South African soil. And in the middle of this anger, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa sent a special delegation to Nigeria. The delegation reportedly expected to meet President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But Tinubu declined to receive them personally and directed them to Nigerian foreign affairs officials instead. That decision sent a clear diplomatic message: Nigeria was angry. Many Nigerians expected the South African delegation to arrive with humility, responsibility, and specific answers. They expected to hear what South Africa was doing to investigate the deaths, prosecute attackers, and protect innocent Nigerians. But then the envoy began talking about Nigerians allegedly involved in drug trafficking, cybercrime and organized criminal activity. And immediately, Nigerians began asking, was that the right time? Was that why he came? Was he sent to address the attacks against Nigerians, or to place Nigerians on trial inside their own country? No responsible Nigerian is asking South Africa to protect criminals. Anyone who commits a crime should be investigated and prosecuted according to the law. But the crime of one Nigerian cannot become an indictment of every Nigerian. And allegations against some individuals can never justify attacks against innocent people. So, was this truly a diplomatic peace mission? Or did South Africa send an envoy who ended up insulting Nigerians on Nigerian soil? Listen carefully to what the envoy said. Afterwards, we will also hear the reactions of Ayo, Rufai Oseni and Dr. Reuben Abati. Then I will return to examine their arguments, the weight of their reactions, the diplomatic mistakes that may have been made and whether the Nigerian government is doing enough to defend its citizens. I also want you to listen critically, because this discussion is not complete without your own perspective. Did the envoy speak like a man trying to make peace? Or like a representative trying to shift responsibility? Watch this.
We have condemned in very strong terms the treatment of Nigerians in South Africa. And we have said that this government and Nigeria itself has to take a very, stern stance away from just talking to actually demonstrating action. And so I praise and I'm glad that the president did not give the special envoy audience just to demonstrate the displeasure of Nigeria at the way that his president, that is President Ramaphosa, has handled this particular matter and the South African government. The fact that they would even come... In fact, I was watching the speech that was played a few minutes ago, and he still had the audacity on Nigerian soil to be talking about drug dealers, this, and I'm like, the audacity. What you should come here to be doing is to apologize and share with us ways in which South Africa is looking to handle this matter. And that is why I believe that the Nigerian side of things must continue to double down on its intolerance of the treatment of Nigerians and the killing of Nigerians in South Africa. So very quickly, the only thing I'll just mention is that this must be escalated to the African Union. We talked about that. And even where possible to the ICC. And then reciprocity as well, whether it's economic through our bilateral agreements and also through diplomatic channels as well. We must take a tough stand. No Nigerian life must be dehumanized or even lost in South Africa. Rufai, your take on these stories?
I'm happy President Tinubu didn't see that envoy. President Tinubu, kudos to you. Although they said it was a scheduling problem, but enough of the insults by Cyril Ramaphosa on us. If you want to talk to us, Cyril Ramaphosa, come to Nigeria and talk to us. Stop sending envoy. This matter is beyond envoy. You are killing our people. And I say you are killing our people because governments in South Africa now looks to be involved in all of this. Where was that Nigerian beaten to death a police custody. It's a police custody, not a reflection of the government in South Africa. So, Ramaphosa, you can't be killing our people. Your government can't be killing our people since they are dying in police custody now. And you are sending envoy to us. Ramaphosa, even if you can't come, which I think you should be able to come, if you even have any modicum of respect for us, you have President Tinubu's phone number. Don't send envoy to us. Stop insulting us. This insult is too much. In case you forget, how collectively over the years we donated over $60 billion to the cause of the liberation and the freedom you enjoy today. We'll remind you, Ramaphosa, stop sending envoys and insulting us.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm waiting to be cut off characteristically, but there are things I would like to say. I can keep my knowledge to myself. And I begin as follows with South Africa. It is not unusual for the president of a country to send envoys to another country. Now, what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done is to send a diplomatic statement. In diplomacy, there are nuances, there are gestures. Now, what the Nigerian president has said is that, look, there was no prior notice. I don't believe that, because it would be difficult for a brother president to send an envoy or a team of envoys to another president without giving a prior notice. That would be against protocols in international diplomatic practice. However, I've written a column, an extended, column on the subject today, which I titled Xenophobia, Tinubu and Ramaphosa, on the back page of this day newspaper. And my simple submission is that, yes, the response of the Nigerian president is most appropriate, and that this is how it is done in diplomacy. They have not said anything offensive, but the president has said, well, I cannot be visited without prior notice, and, I have my own schedule, so why don't you go and see the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs? And that was exactly what happened yesterday. And Ambassador Shola Enikunolaye tabled Nigeria's grievances. And I think in this particular case, Nigeria has done well because Nigerian lives matter, whether in South Africa or in any part of the world or even at home. So I think it's a triumph on the foreign policy front for President Tinubu to have snubbed President Ramaphosa, whatever cover story they have given. Let us note also that the team from South Africa came directly from Ghana, where they were, received by the Ghanaian president. Although Ghana has been more proactive in objecting to the conduct of the South Africans. Now, let us also note that this visit was proposed just about 24 hours after a Nigerian, Chika Ibe Simon, was strangulated by South African police. And then they came to Nigeria to come and see our president. I think Nigeria acted rightly by saying our president is not available. Now there's going to be a meeting of the African Union on conflict prevention and all of that, August 29 to 30 in Luanda, Angola, on the back of the 69th ordinary meeting of the Authority of the Heads of States of ECOWAS, where Nigeria and Ghana led in saying that this matter has to go to the African Union. And this is why South Africa has just woken up now, and South Africa is running helter-skelter and saying we are looking for shared responsibility with Ghana, with Nigeria, with other countries. No, we do not share the responsibility for genocide, the politics of hate, and the misconduct of both the South African government and its people. And I think that the message that Nigeria should deliver to President Ramaphosa and his people is the message that was sent out by ECOWAS at its last 69th ordinary meeting, that the behavior of South Africa in this xenophobia, they also call it Afrophobia, is un-African and a violation of the principles of integration or Pan-Africanism or the objectives of the African Agenda 2036. I'll end there. The rest of my arguments are in the back page of this day newspaper today.
Now, you have heard the South African envoy for yourself. You have also heard the reactions of Ayo, Rufai Oseni, and Dr. Reuben Abati. So let us examine what happened carefully. Because behind the diplomatic language, the polite smiles and the carefully selected words, there is a serious question that cannot be ignored. Did that sound like a peace mission? Or did it sound like South Africa had come to defend itself, accuse Nigerians and shift attention away from the suffering of innocent people? What was the envoy really trying to do? South Africa has the right to raise concerns about crime. No serious Nigerian should defend drug trafficking, cybercrime, immigration violations or organized criminal activity. If any Nigerian commits a crime in South Africa, arrest that person. Investigate the allegation. Present the evidence. Take the accused before a competent court. And if found guilty, punish him according to the law. That is how a civilized society operates. But that was not the main reason Nigerians believed the delegation had come to Nigeria. The delegation came during a period of anger over attacks against Nigerians and other African migrants in South Africa. It came after reports of Nigerians being harassed, displaced, and killed. It came when almost 1,500 Nigerians had reportedly returned home because they no longer felt safe. It came when Nigerians expected answers, responsibility, and reassurance. So why did the envoy choose that moment to emphasize drug trafficking and cybercrime allegedly committed by some Nigerians? Was he trying to calm the situation? Or was he indirectly suggesting that South Africa's treatment of Nigerians should be understood within the context of Nigerian criminality? Even when the facts you are presenting are true, timing matters. Context matters. Tone matters. And for a diplomat, those things matter even more. A diplomat must know how to read the room. Diplomacy is not simply wearing a suit and speaking politely. It is knowing what to say, how to say it, and, most importantly, when to say it. The South African envoy entered a country whose citizens were already angry. President Tinubu had reportedly refused to receive the delegation personally, a clear diplomatic message that Nigeria was not happy. That should have told the envoy he was entering a sensitive environment, and encouraged humility and restraint. Instead of specifics, how many attacks were being investigated, how many suspects arrested, what protection was being offered, whether families would see justice, Nigerians heard about crimes allegedly committed by Nigerians. That may have been part of his official briefing, but a wise diplomat does not simply read everything written in his briefing document. He understands that the wrong argument, presented at the wrong time, can turn a peace mission into a provocation. Why Ayo's anger was understandable. I do not blame Ayo for being angry. Her reaction represented a large section of Nigerians who watched the envoy and asked, did this man really come to Nigeria to tell us this? Her anger came from an accumulated history of pain and disappointment, attacks, followed by condemnations and promises, followed by more attacks once the cameras leave. Sometimes calm analysis is necessary. But sometimes anger is also necessary. It tells us that something has crossed a moral boundary. A person can be emotional and still be correct. Ayo represented people tired of hearing, yes, Nigerians were attacked, but some Nigerians also commit crimes. That "but" is the problem. Once that word is introduced, attention shifts from the victims to unrelated people who allegedly committed crimes. The individual is no longer treated as an individual, the entire nationality is placed in the dock. Rufai Oseni exposed the logical problem. While Ayo expressed the emotion, Rufai Oseni focused on the logic. What does the alleged criminal activity of some Nigerians have to do with innocent Nigerians being attacked? A Nigerian accused of a crime should face the law. But criminals have names, addresses, case files. Criminality should never be treated as a national identity. A Nigerian doctor in Johannesburg is not responsible for a Nigerian drug dealer in Pretoria. No society should allow public suspicion against criminals to become collective punishment against foreigners. That is the strength of his argument. He separated individual responsibility from national identity. Once nationality becomes evidence of guilt, every innocent person carrying that nationality becomes a potential target. That is how xenophobia grows. It begins with generalizations. They are taking over, they are involved in crime, and generalization becomes suspicion becomes hostility, and hostility can become violence. What Dr. Abati added. Dr. Reuben Abati's intervention places this within diplomacy and state responsibility. Every action in diplomacy carries a message: who receives an envoy, where, at what rank, in what language. President Tinubu's reported refusal to receive the delegation personally was Nigeria saying, "This is serious, we are angry, this is not business as usual." But a headline is not a foreign policy. Did Nigeria secure concrete commitments? Independent investigations into the disputed deaths. Names of arrested suspects. A prosecution timetable. Compensation for victims. A real protection mechanism for Nigerians still in South Africa. Those questions would determine whether the refusal was the start of a real strategy or just a symbolic display of anger. Was the envoy defending South Africa or shifting blame? To be fair, the envoy may argue he wasn't defending xenophobia, that crime and attacks against migrants are separate issues both countries must cooperate on. That's a legitimate position. The problem is how he presented it. A peace envoy's first duty is to reduce tension, reassure the injured party, rebuild confidence. If his message leaves the injured country angrier than before he arrived, something has gone wrong. We cannot know his private intention, but diplomacy is judged by impact as much as intention, and the impact was that many Nigerians felt blamed and stereotyped inside their own country. A more diplomatic statement would have condemned every attack first, acknowledged the pain and fear, committed to transparent investigation and prosecution, promised stronger protection for vulnerable communities, and only then, separately, raised cross-border crime cooperation. That would have let South Africa raise legitimate concerns without appearing to justify violence. Instead, by mixing the two, the envoy weakened his own peace message. Crime cannot justify collective punishment. No Nigerian criminal should be protected because of nationality. But no innocent Nigerian should be punished because of nationality. If South African authorities have evidence against 500 Nigerians, prosecute those 500 individuals, don't use them to describe hundreds of thousands of innocent ones. South Africa has laws, police, prosecutors, judges. Use those institutions. Mob action is not law enforcement. Killing suspects before trial is not policing. South Africa wins again. That's the question bothering many Nigerians. This is not South Africa winning a football trophy. No. They are asking if South Africa is about to get away again with the looting and killings of helpless immigrants, with diplomatic talks laced with insults and a refusal to accept their failure to protect the lives of Africans in their country. Nigerians have seen this pattern before: an attack, outrage, a delegation, promises, the cameras leave, public anger fades, then it happens again. So when Nigerians ask whether South Africa has won again, they're asking whether a human rights crisis has once more been reduced to a diplomatic meeting, whether prepared statements will again replace arrest and compensation, whether Nigerian lives matter less than the South African capital and companies that operate freely and profitably in Nigeria. President Tinubu's refusal to receive the delegation was a strong signal, but Nigeria has issued strong signals before, and little has changed. Nigeria must stop performing anger and start converting it into policy, demand transparent investigations into every disputed death, document every destroyed business and every displaced family, insist on regular reports on arrests and prosecutions, establish rapid consular assistance for Nigerians in South Africa, and coordinate with other African nations facing the same hostility. This is not only a Nigerian problem, it is an African one, and it needs an African response. Nigeria should not respond with mob violence. Nigerians must not respond by attacking innocent South Africans or South African-linked businesses in Nigeria. Many of those businesses employ Nigerians. Destroying them would harm ordinary Nigerians far more than the South African government. Nigeria must not copy the injustice it condemns. The response must be lawful, strategic, and sustained: diplomatic pressure, legal action, economic leverage, regional institutions, documented evidence. The goal is not revenge. The goal is accountability. Who made the strongest argument? Ayo expressed the anger and humiliation many Nigerians felt, understandable, given years of repeated disappointment. Rufai Oseni exposed the logical flaw in treating individual crime as collective guilt. Dr. Abati placed it within the larger question of diplomacy and national dignity. But the strongest caution belongs to the South African envoy, not necessarily because every concern he raised was false, but because he failed to separate the discussion of crime from the urgent demand for accountability, and left the impression that South Africa was more prepared to defend itself than to confront the suffering of innocent Nigerians. Final questions. Did the South African envoy behave like a diplomat sent to make peace, or did his remarks deepen the crisis he was supposed to resolve? Was Rufai Oseni correct that individual crime cannot become collective guilt? And most importantly, is the Nigerian government doing enough, or are we once again watching strong statements and symbolic gestures without lasting consequences? South Africa has not won simply because its envoy came to Nigeria. Nigeria has not won simply because President Tinubu refused to receive him. The real winner will be decided by what happens next. If attackers are arrested, if abusive officers are prosecuted, if victims are compensated, if innocent Nigerians and other African migrants are protected, Africa wins. But if the anger disappears, if the promises are forgotten, if no one is held accountable, and another Nigerian is attacked once the cameras have moved on, then yes, South Africa has won again. Not against Nigeria, but against accountability. Our demand is not revenge. Our demand is justice. Our demand is accountability. And our message is simple: stop killing Africans in Africa. That is my analysis, but the conversation does not end with me. What do you think? Was this truly a peace mission, or did the South African envoy insult Nigerians on Nigerian soil? Was President Tinubu right to refuse the meeting? And what concrete action should the Nigerian government take next? Please share your thoughts respectfully in the comment section. If you found this analysis thoughtful, bold, and worth discussing, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to The Critical Lens. Turn on your notification bell so you do not miss our next analysis. Here, we do not just repeat the headlines. We question them. We examine the arguments. And we look beyond the official narrative. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and keep looking beyond the headlines. This is The Critical Lens with IG. Goodbye.